It's time to dad.
Hey guys, welcome back to Time to Dad. I'm here tonight with James and Alex. If you missed the previous episode, go back and check that out. We've recently brought a couple new dads onto the podcast, James being one of those guys. And we did their intro episode on the previous episode. So if you want to know get to know him a little better, go back and check that episode out. Those guys did some kind of brief bio intros for that episode. But anyway, let's get into it. Thanks for joining us. What I think tonight on the docket, we've got a little bit of work-life balance type discussion stuff. Where are you guys at with that? You struggling? Doing all right? Do you have the holy grail of answers for dads out there that might be struggling with it?
I have one suggestion. Take a nap and take more vacations. Just take more vacations. Don't let that PTO roll over. Just take time off. Sometimes you need a good reset, and whether that's a day, whether that's 2 days or a week, take time off. Even if you don't go anywhere, just de-stress from work. That's a huge thing for me. Just work is great. It's going to be there, but do take time for yourself. That's what I say.
I think that's my problem. So our one big vacation a year, we go down to North Carolina, down to Nags Head there every year, and we do a week there. But then my other PTO, I have I don't know, I think I have 5 weeks a year. My other PTO, I just take like a half day Friday here or there, or I'll take a whole Friday off. But the problem with that is I find myself doing that so that I can get like honey-do list shit done, or work on something that needs to be worked on, or whatever it is. I don't take the time to just decompress and shit like that, and that's part of my problem. But I did, if you remember the Valentine's Day episode, Alex, I gave my wife a little. I'm handmade like a bunch of those little cards, like good for blah blah blah. Yeah, so I put a few in there that are good for like some weekend trips and shit like that. So hopefully she'll use them, and that'll kind of force me to take some personal time to decompress and not deal with shit around the house and real life stuff, and we can just relax. But yeah, I'm guilty of not using my vacation time for actual relaxation and getting my energy levels back.
Yeah, for me, I think it's definitely a struggle. I'm still active duty military, and we're a salary position, so it it's just a constant grind, grind, grind. Very early on, when you're a private, going up to even becoming a NCO, a sergeant, or whatever, you just doing what you're told, and you have a mission to meet during that day or that week or whatever, and you're working long hours to accomplish whatever that goal is for the week, right? So sometimes you might come in, do PT at 6:30 in the morning till 7:30. Come back to work at 9 a.m. and then you don't get home or leave work until 8 p.m., 9 p.m. at night, and then you just wake up and do it all over again, right? So back when I was doing that sort of that, when my op tempo, when my job was my schedule was that strenuous, I didn't have a spouse or a kid, so it wasn't that big of a deal, right? And I made sure to get my stress out in different ways, working out or partying or whatever. Then once I got married, I've said my wife and I've been together 20 years now. I still didn't understand it, right? And about the time my wife and I actually got married, I started working for 4-star generals. And a lot of people think, hey, these 4-star general, and I mentioned earlier, hey, I fly around in private jets and things like that, right? And so people think these 4-star generals are just living the life. Well, those guys work like 16 to 20 hours a day, right? And they're just constantly work, work, work. So their immediate staff that works for them, guess what? Work, work, work. And for the longest time, I didn't understand how to leave work at home or leave work at work. So even though we just did 12-hour shift or 12-hour workday, I'd go home and I'd be on my work phone answering emails, answering text messages, you know, managing my team and telling them, hey, go here, do this, go here, do this. And so I know that weighed a toll on on mine and my wife's relationship. And when one of my bosses, when he retired, and he was the one boss that I would say he might have gotten that work life balance figured out, because he never went on a trip, like an away trip, if it was something he had going on in his family, right? Like, it's easy to do that when you're the boss and you can make those decisions, but he always, made sure to make it clear to us, hey, if it's your anniversary, you're not on this trip, right? Like if he were to found out if he found out that we were with him on a trip somewhere and we were missing kid's birthday or something like that, he would be very angry with us. So, but at his retirement speech, he mentioned this work life balance, and he told us, hey, the army's still going to be here once you retire, so your family might not. To make sure you're putting in the same amount of time in your family. And I think that hit something. And I think that was probably 2014. And for about 3 or 4 years, I had a job that was pretty easy, and I felt like I was coming home every day at the right time. I was spending the right amount of vacation days. I was doing all the right things with my wife. And then we got orders to Korea after my daughter was born, and I started working for another 4 star. And then, sure enough, those same old habits, right? Working 16 hours, you know, bringing work home, so you're on your phone constantly, and all these sorts of things. And you mentioned not taking your PTO. We get 30 days of PTO or leave a year. I currently have 120 saved up. You're only supposed to be allowed to roll over 60, but because of COVID, I still have some in the bank. So I have 120 days of vacation time saved up,
Nice.
and and it
But you
sounds
can't do
nice,
shit with
but
it.
like I don't take time off, right? So now for me personally, I'm going to retire in a year, so that means I'm going to be able to take that one large chunk, right before retirement. So I'll be able to work another job and receive they call it terminal leave. But you mentioned taking PTO and doing honeydew lists. I'm on PTO right now. I'm on leave right now. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I've been in my garage working on my garage, right? So, you know, it it
Hey, that's
it,
therapy to some dudes, man. Get cleaning
it
the garage, organizing it, adding
yeah,
shit.
it's certainly a balance, and I definitely will never claim that I have it figured out. I always see this, at this goal, I'm gonna, be able to do it. At this goal, I'm gonna be able to do it. And currently, my goal, in my brain anyway, I'm saying, all right, when I retire next year, I won't have to work as hard, because I won't need that extra paycheck as much, because I have this to fall back on. So if I end up in a corporate job where there is too time consuming, or it doesn't meet all the criteria, and I'm not allowed to spend the amount of time I want with my family, I can just leave and go to the next job, right? That's what I tell myself in my head. So I can only hope that I'm better next year than I am today.
Yeah, there's I don't know if you've seen that quote floating around Facebook, but it's like the the only people that are gonna remember how hard you worked after you're dead are your kids. Um,
Yeah,
Basically meaning your employee could give a shit less about you.
for sure.
If you're working 60-hour work weeks, the only person you're really hurting are your family and your kids by not being there. So I know for some dads that you have to grind that out of necessity. You and your spouse just aren't, maybe you're not where you want to be financially, or you're trying to catch up or get ahead. But that's always something I just caution. Like money is great and everything. And if you can get it, go out and get it. But just be careful what you're sacrificing to get that money that you want, and really think about why you want that money so bad, and is it worth the other things you may have to sacrifice to get that money that you want. I think we Alex might remember, I think you were on the episode, but we kind of talked about finding the right employer that's going to take care of you and stuff like that, and employers that, truly value you as a person, not just somebody that's bringing income in. And so I always stress that, that's, for me, that's my sweet spot. I would love to make a shit ton of money. I'm sure right now I could leave the company I'm at and easily see 10-15% more in pay. But to me, my employer is is where I want to be right now so badly that it's not, I'm not going to take that risk, go somewhere else. So I always just kind of tell guys, if you're in a spot where you are just, it is causing massive relationship issues, you're not seeing your kids, I just challenge those dads to really look at, one, are you in the right line of work, right? Two, if you are in the right line of work, are you with the right employer? And then three, just really look at yourself, and look at those goals you've set for yourself. Make sure they're realistic. Don't, everybody wants money, right? You want all the things. Some people don't, and if that's your lifestyle, cool. But this day and age, like keeping up with the Joneses seems to be what everybody's trying to do. So I just always caution guys, just really take a look at that big picture. And that's the biggest part of that work-life balance is once you find an employer that makes you happy that you're there, that will take a shit ton of stress off your shoulders, first of all. B, if shit hits the fan at home, they're going to be more responsive, more acceptable. Hey, boss, I got this stuff going on. I'm going to need to work from home more often, XYZ. If you're with a shit employer, they're going to tell you to take a hike. So that's the kind of stuff I tell guys to look at when they start asking about work-life balance. And I realize, that varies from career to career, right? Military, you just talked about, can be tricky to deal with. I know a lot of guys that work, do contracting and laboring type stuff, work a lot of hours, a lot of overtime. A lot of them work away from home for extended periods of time in the contracting industry. So it can be tricky as well. Not just, do you like your employer? It can all depend on the line of work you're in as well. But for me, sorry, that's long-winded. But for me, COVID sealed the deal for me on, you talked about, James, not being able to leave work at work. And during that whole COVID bullshit period, everybody was working from home at my firm. We all had our laptops at home. So it was too damn easy to just check the email, send a couple emails, do a little work. And so when everything finally broke with COVID and we're back in the office, I reflected on that and I was like, I never want to do that again. And from that point forward, I mean, when I leave work, I left work. Like I still have email on my phone and I'll see something come through, but I'm like, you know what? That's just going to have to wait till tomorrow. It's 5 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock. I don't care. When I leave the office, I check out for the day, and that's my family time.
Yeah, it's constant work in progress for me, and I know my wife has some family coming into town in 2 weeks, so we have a couple little small trips here and there we're planning, and then right after that, I'm gonna plan. We have a timeshare over in Orlando, so we're gonna go do that, and then I think we might book a cruise later in the year. If we don't go as a family, I'm at least encouraging my wife to take the girls only cruise because as you guys heard in the previous episode, my wife holds the majority of the roles in our family. So she's got a lot on her shoulders, and she hasn't had a single break in 3 years. So she needs to definitely go, and very deserved trip. But yeah,
Girls only.
Might have to
That's nice.
take a note from your book there, bud.
Yeah. I don't do that.
Kind
I
of ties
probably should,
into
but I don't.
kind of ties into Alex's story he was telling earlier with his bromances.
Oh,
Yeah.
you had some bromance?
Oh, yeah. I started doing this thing. I know we're talking about starting a club, and I'm kind of like starting it off on my own, like testing out I guess a format, if that makes any sense. So me and my friend, this is an old coworker. We haven't worked with each other in, I want to say, at least a year, possibly closer to 2 years. We haven't worked together. And me and him are still tight. We hang out. We send each other stuff on TikTok or Instagram, Facebook. We're just online friends at this point. But he's like, "Hey, do you think you want to go to this tattoo convention that's coming to town?" I said, "Dude, let's do it." So we planned for
straight.
Saturday. Planned for a Saturday. It actually wound up being that I was gonna work that Saturday. I said, "Hey, dude, sorry, I work Saturday. Do you want to go later in the afternoon and check it out, or do you want to do it just Sunday because they're still doing it on Sunday?" So he said, "Yeah, sure, let's do it on Sunday." Picked him up, brought him coffee because I'm a
What a
nice bro.
sweetheart.
Brought him coffee. He's never had a cake pop from Starbucks, so that was a pleasant surprise for him. I treated him like the princess that my buddy is. So picked him up, took him on the mandate to a tattoo convention. I wound up getting a tattoo. We're just walking around, just admiring different artists, different pieces that they were working on, and it was like the coolest thing. And afterwards, we rather than just dropping him off at home, I'm like, "Hey, bro, do you want to grab a quick bite?" So that was essentially our dinner together, and like a full on romantical date, like just two bros broing it out. They had live music of these three dudes with acoustic guitars. They're playing some southern rock, some country songs. Like it was really cool. Like I'm telling you, if it was in San Francisco, it would have been like just two dudes that are together doing romantic stuff. You know what I mean? It wouldn't look odd in San Francisco, but in North Carolina, where we're at, we're just friends, we're just buddies, we're just catching up and having a full on good time with each other. Because again, we hadn't spent time with each other in a long time, and me and him communicate all the time. We text each other. He's a great friend. He's always checking up on me. I'm a terrible friend. I don't do the same thing towards other people.
What a
Everybody always
dick.
picks up on me. I know. I'm bad. I'm working on it. Okay, I'm working on it. New year, new me. I'm working on it. So my new year, new me was being more involved with friends, and consequently after that I had another bro date with another coworker, and this guy was ex Navy CB. So me and him have a lot of stuff in common because when I was in the Navy Reserves, that's my job. I was a Navy CB, and we just chopped it up and just hung out, grabbed some beers. We're just being old men, just looking at young ladies at a bar. I'm like, "A nice lady." He's like, "Yeah, too bad we're old and busted." I'm like, "Yeah, speak for yourself, dude." But yeah, that was a pretty cool time me and him had. Yeah, man. So
That's funny.
I invite you,
Dude,
Nick, and
I
James.
don't bromance hard anymore. I used to back in the day, but I mean, my most of my close buddies that I still keep up with are not in Virginia anymore, which kind of
Yeah,
sucks. So
and
we bromance via text.
nice. So I have done this. I don't know since what year, but pretty much since I moved to North Carolina, I went to Austin, Texas to see a buddy that he was doing a veteran event for this company called 22 Shenanigans. They help out veterans. They organize. I think they changed names also, so it might be something different now. But they just put together events for veterans. They're on the way up. They're not as big as the Wounded Warrior. They're not as big as other companies like that. But it's the sentiment is still there. They're just trying to help out veterans. And the last thing they did was a fishing trip. So I kind of took since
Nice.
that time, I took time to see other friends that I had in the military. So for example, I saw one of my friends who was living in Cambodia at the time. He's passed now, but I went to go visit him while he was living in Cambodia. And years later, I went to go see another friend who's living in Denver, Colorado. The year after, I went to go see a buddy who was in Missouri. What's that damn city? St. Louis. And I just try to see one of my old military friends at least once a year, just because we're there's less and less of us, each year it seems like, and I'm just not trying to miss out on an opportunity to catch back up with some friends. And I take that, I guess, that level of seriousness of going to see a old military buddy to see a friend, here in North Carolina. Like I take it with the same level of seriousness. Like it might be dorky the things that we do, but I'm like you don't get that anymore. You know what I mean? Like James is living it up. He's watching his friends get out, retire, and all that good stuff. He makes a new group of friends, and they're getting out and retiring. You know what I mean? And one day he's going to be the one getting out and retiring. You know what I mean? And then you're not going to have your friends. You're not going to have your bro moments anymore. They're going to be gone. And like James said, the army doesn't stop for nobody. It just keeps on rolling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for
I
sure.
Dude, that happened to me when we had kids. So James, I don't think you know, but we have a soon to be, actually she just turned 19. I have a 19-year-old stepdaughter. And so she moved in with my wife and I when she was 7, I think. And shortly after that is when like friends started disappearing because none of my friends at that age had kids. At that point, I was still playing in the band. A couple friends had kids, but as soon as you have kids, your friend list like it really starts to dwindle if you don't have other friends that have kids. And a lot of my friends don't have kids, so they're inviting you to shit and you're like, oh, I'd love to, but that's not really kid friendly. So and it's cool to get a sitter and shit like that. But my wife and I are homebodies, so we'd rather just be like, nah, I can't bring the kids. So we're just going to hang out at home. But yeah, that's when I stopped having like most of the bro moments was either my friends relocated to different states or we just kind of went our separate ways because they weren't about that kid life and don't understand kids. But we've got some cool neighbors that moved in around us in the past few years that are have kids, so making some neighborhood friends at least.
Nice.
Yeah, my New Year's resolution actually was to be more present in my friends' lives and to create new friends, new relationships that are lasting and meaningful, not fake friendships, not Instagram friendships, right? Just real relationships, and because I have my core group of guys, that I grew up with my whole life, and our lives have, gone in different directions. But there's a handful of them that we still communicate via social media or whatever, and I might see them once or twice a year or once every other year or so. But we're not. It's not constant. It's not up to date, right? So that was one of my New Year's resolutions. And then as Alex said, in the military, every 2 to 3 years we're moving, so you get a whole new group of friends every 2 3 years, right? So why you keep in touch, on social media. Thank God for social media, because the first few years of my career, there's great friends that I was deployed in some very, very bad places with that I have no contact with because I never knew their first name or whatever the case may be, so I couldn't even look them up on social media. But thank God for social media, because I have been able to connect with so many people throughout my career. I have a buddy now that's in Japan, and him and I were friends with a guy that unfortunately killed himself 2 weeks ago, and he called me from Japan and said, hey man, Pablo took his life. So I I there's not too many people or too many times that I regret not reaching out to someone, and I really regret not being more present in his life to know what kind of issues he might have been going through to go through that. And we talked, occasionally, casually, hey, what's going on? Just that, another past niceties, but we weren't present in each other's lives, right? So I really regret that, that's kind of where I'm at now, right? We move every couple of years, so we don't really form those really close knit relationships. And then we had our daughter. We had our daughter 3.5 years ago, and now our social circle is her friends' parents, right? Like, so, and we don't hang out other than play dates or this kid event or that kid event. We don't like come together and actually like as friends. It's more like as parents, and so that hasn't formed any great relationships. And then most of the people that are my age have kids that are graduating from college or in the military or whatever the case may be. Most of them don't have 3.5-year olds,
opposite
right?
of what we were with our daughter. We were the
Right,
youngest damn people in the room.
right. So it's just been
It's interesting.
it's been a little bit difficult, and I would say for the longest time I was like, I don't really need that right. I'm perfectly fine with what I have. If I needed someone, I have people that I can rely on. They're just
Yeah.
not near me, and my wife is my best friend, so I just haven't needed that. But here lately I've just said I want
You need
a
somebody to go out and do stupid shit with, or just be
yeah,
a
exactly,
fucking goofball and
yeah,
pretend like you're in
exactly.
fucking high school again doing stupid shit. You got to have that, and I don't have that shit either. But it's funny you mentioned like making that kind of your resolution for the year, because last year that was kind of mine. Was there's a few select buddies that I grew up with that I'm still pretty close with, and every now and again it would be like a couple months go by and we say hey to each other, what's up, but it was probably like 2 or 3 years ago I kind of made a conscious effort to be like, I'm going to check in on these motherfuckers more often, and so I'll message them and I'll be like, how are you guys doing or whatever, and they'll respond like doing good, and I'm like, no, really, like tell me how the fuck you're doing. And usually they'll be like, seriously, I'm great. But there's been a couple times where they're like, man, fucking this is going on, and they're having a shit time. And that for me was just important to me, and both those guys were guys that were like in my wedding, but one of them lives in Tennessee, one of them lives down in Alabama now, and so we're far apart, but that was kind of my thing, was to keep in touch. And it's hard for me because I can't tell Jen like, oh, I'm just gonna do a dude's weekend and piss off and fly down to Alabama, or head over to Tennessee. I could, and she'd be okay with it. She'd understand, but that's just I don't want to put that extra burden and weight on her, so I don't. But eventually, I'll take a trip, and then we've been talking for a hot minute, James, about getting everybody on the podcast together somewhere centrally located to do a time to dad, a fucking long weekend or something, whatever we decide to do. So that'll happen.
Tampa's great.
But yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough to make friends and keep friends. And I've been here. I was born and raised where I live now, so I can't imagine you guys in the military having to move and up and pack your shit up and find new friends and new people to rely on in the new communities you're in. I can't imagine that shit. So again, kudos to you guys for sorting your way through all that.
I'm on my 14th move in 21 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not okay with that. What you just said, 14th move.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm like, since I got out of the military, I moved from California to Alabama, Alabama to California, California to North Carolina. And I'm not saying I'm going to retire here, but I don't want to live here the rest of my life. But I'm also not looking forward to moving anywhere.
I hate moving, man.
Ever.
Can't imagine that
Again.
much moving.
Yeah. And
Yeah, I think
just
I'm-
a heads up to Nick and James, my phone's probably going to die here pretty soon, but it's been a good podcast so far. Like, this has been pretty cool.
You got to make it another 10 minutes at least.
If it dies, I'm sorry. I don't have any more time.
What part of North Carolina? What part of North Carolina are you?
I'm like 20 minutes outside of Charlotte.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So if we move, it will likely be either. So my wife's from Germany, so it'll either be back to Germany,
Love Germany.
which has its benefits, right? Like we don't have to worry about, the crime and the things that you have to worry about here. But politically, I disagree with everything their country stands for, and then I told you I'm fiscally conservative, and when you think our taxes are bad here, they're nuts over there. So that's just not a good thing for me to go over there and try to make money and create generational wealth, right? Like I could go over there and probably get a contractor job working on the military base and do just fine, but 5 years, right? I couldn't go there and stay the next 60, I don't think.
Yeah.
And then
Europe as a
60.
whole just fucking scares me right now, man. Just
Well, that's
scares
true.
the living
But
shit out of me.
here in Florida, we could stay here, but Tampa is just so expensive that I feel like I'm not going to get the most out of my retirement money, out of my pension, if I stay here in Tampa. And then I'm from North Carolina. I'm from Greenville, so Raleigh is about an hour away. Which Raleigh is a big tech community. So I'm a tech guy.
They're booming in
Ton,
tech right now. We do a lot of work
ton,
around Raleigh.
tons and tons of jobs, and they got sports centers there. Right outside of Raleigh, you got Cary. Cary has been rated the number one safest city in the United States like the last 10 years in a row.
Yeah.
Number one place to raise a family like the last 10 years in a row. So I think that would be great. And it's only about an hour and a half away from my family. And then the other side of that, my wife aesthetically prefers Charlotte. We don't know much about Charlotte. I know there's I think Lake Norman up there.
Lake Norman's cool. Yeah, it's a good town.
Yeah. So I'm a water guy, so I'd prefer to be closer to water. But if we were close enough to city life and close enough to water, potentially. I haven't looked too much into it. I know there's a Polish school there in Charlotte. My wife was born in Poland, raised in Germany, so it'd be cool to get my daughter in that Polish school.
Nice.
If we move again, it's going to be either Charlotte, Raleigh, or potentially Texas, and Texas is too far away from families. So
yeah, I was thinking about Texas. I don't know if you're too familiar with Tim Kennedy. He's starting up his own school, and based on how education is going right now, and based on the state of the world, I would much rather have my kids in a school that isn't full of nonsense. I'm not too familiar with them, but I'm aware of who Tim Kennedy is, and he's no frills, no bullshit. He just gives it to you real. And I'd rather have. I mean, I'm thinking, but I'd rather have my kids there. But again, moving is not what I'm looking forward to. Plus, I'd have to somehow convince my wife. Even if I do convince my wife, I'm not a fan of heat, and Texas is extremely hot.
Yeah, not the place for you, bud.
No, I know. I'm not a fan of heat, but
it might grow on you.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll put up with it if everything else is in the right place. I might live with it. I might walk around with the wet T-shirt all the time, but I'll learn to live with it.
I'm used to the heat. It doesn't bother me. It's just
I
I love being able to being down here where it's hot all the time. My wife would prefer to have all four seasons, which I know Charlotte does. So
we have mostly all four seasons. Yeah, I like
3.5.
It's not terrible. Like I don't think it's been here in the single digits yet. But it's been in the 15s, 18s, plenty of times.
Don't fucking move here. You will get all four seasons within an individual season.
Yeah, that's how this past couple weeks it felt like. It's like summertime in the day and then wintertime at night. I'm just like, man, your damn mind, weather. What is going on?
We were talking about that before you joined. I was like, man, this morning I'm like bundled up. My kid's freezing to death at the bus stop, and then I come out of work and it's like 70 degrees. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
You guys have fun with it.
If it was up to me, perfect weather, it would be in the 20s and 30s all year long. Some snow a couple times a year. No, I love cold weather. I can't do hot. I
need the spring and summer for fishing, though. I can't do cold constantly.
I can do cold all year long. I don't know what it is. I'm a polar bear, I guess. I run hot all the time, so I'm fine with cold weather. I really am. I honestly should have been.
Sounds like you need to move to Minnesota or some shit.
I can't because the wife doesn't like the cold the same way that I do. So I can't convince her to move somewhere where it's
buy her some fancy jackets.
If I could go the rest of my life without ever wearing pants, I would die a happy man. So I think somewhere like Hawaii where it's like that.
So you need to move to a nudist colony.
Hawaii is pretty sweet. At least Honolulu, when we went, that's pretty sweet.
Like that, the top of their summer is 77, 80, 80 degrees. It doesn't get to the 105 degrees it gets down here, right?
Yeah, cooking eggs on the pavement. Nope. Yeah. I tolerate the cold much better than the heat.
Yeah.
I'll take a vacation to the cold if I feel like wanting to ski or something. I don't want to live in it.
To where? Oh,
I'm
in the
okay with
cold?
living in it.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it. I like it.
Well, if you move to Germany, pretty chilly there.
I lived there 10 years. I'm used to it.
Live in the Alps, maybe.
No, I'll pass.
I like the Alps.
Give
I
give
went
me
there. I went there in middle school for a week with German club, and we rode a gondola up into the like Swiss Alps, and we ate at
Love
this
it.
like mountainside restaurant that was like carved into the side. It was pretty fucking sweet.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
kind of rich guy. What kind of rich guy middle school did you go to?
Fucking no, we had to fucking pay out the ass. Back then it was like $1,200, which was a fuck ton of money, but
Yeah.
now your kids can't go on like a spring trip somewhere for under, $2,000. So
My, I can't even think of a single. I think our AP European history class might have took a Europe trip, but I didn't go because I was broke.
yeah. I got lucky. So I did that in middle school, and my cousin was taking German as well. So we both got to go to that. And then was that my senior year? Yeah, my senior year, we got invited to play. Our marching band got invited to play at the New Year's parade in London. So I got to go to London for that. But that was pretty chill because we did like a giant ass fruit sale to basically pay for everybody to go. And I think we ended up paying a little because if you don't sell enough fucking boxes of fruit or whatever, you got to pay the balance. But that wasn't terribly expensive. But yeah, I got to do some cool shit in middle school and high school. Pretty fortunate.
Yeah, we definitely did. The only language we got to learn in middle school was Spanish.
I don't know. My dad. So we have some German ancestry, and my dad was when he was in the army, he was a German translator. And so for whatever fucking reason, when it came time for me to have to take a language, I was like, oh, I'm gonna take fucking German. It is not an easy language to learn with all the fucking conjugation and shit.
I was gonna say it doesn't sound easy.
Yeah, I was like, this sounds great. Like, Dad's pretty much fluent in it, so he can help me. No, I fucking did terrible, dude.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Sprechen Sie Deutsch?
Ja, ein bisschen.
Ein bisschen. Ich verstehe 65% oder so, aber meine Grammatik ist nicht so good.
all I heard was 65%.
Yeah. I said I can understand about 65%. I can speak about maybe 25%. My grammar is really, really bad.
I can pick it apart and kind of understand what people are saying. Like when I was in New York, it was the same time I met Joe. I heard this older guy and his daughter talking beside me in German, and so I asked them where they were from, and I guess she was she goes to college in the States, and so when he flies over to visit, they try to visit like some cool cities and shit, and they ended up in New York City, I guess. But I talked to them for like 3 or 4 hours. But yeah, their accent was so heavy, dude. I felt like I was translating German the whole time, even though they were pretty much speaking English with me. It's pretty fucking funny, but
yeah,
it was pretty cool at the same time. He was super shocked that like I knew any German at all. He was like, what?
Yeah,
I was like, I know random language for an American to study, but
yeah, we're not well cultured Americans.
Yeah. I don't know. I love Germany. I wasn't there long enough and I wasn't old enough to like understand all of their culture, but I just like the country, the aesthetics of it and the old architecture and shit like that. So
it was great living there. It was great living there.
Where were you?
I was in Mannheim, Heidelberg, and Wiesbaden.
Heidelberg? Okay. I think Heidelberg may have been about where my dad was stationed. But I didn't go to we went to Hamburg, Berlin, and then we went to some areas in Austria and Switzerland as well. But I don't know. I like the old castles and shit. That was like my favorite part of going to the London area and going to Germany was seeing old castles and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's cool.
I did like the German people, at least if you at least attempted to speak German to them, they would be like, oh, you suck at speaking German, and start talking to you in English. But the kids that were really like didn't didn't retain any of the German they learned. The local Germans were not very nice to them. You had to at least attempt to speak it before they'd like help you out and be nice about shit.
I have this thing where like doesn't matter what country I go to, I refuse to speak their language because I'm an asshole. So when I went to Mexico, the people at the security, what's it called? What's it called when you immigration? So the people at immigration were looking at my passport. They saw my first name. They saw my last name. They saw brown skin. Appropriately assumed that I spoke Spanish.
Why won't he speak Spanish to us?
But I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. What do you need from me? And they're like, address. And I was like, hey babe, what's the address? Do you know? And I'm fully like being a loud, obnoxious American, and I'm filling it out. And I'm like, hey, is this good? And again, she doesn't speak the language, so she's like, okay. So she just lets me through, and I had a 4, maybe 5 minute interaction with immigration just because I refused to speak Spanish. And then my wife, her family was, I don't know, 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes total with everybody trying to go through on their end. And I'm like, if you had just been an asshole and spoken only English, they would have been like, I
don't have time for this.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, okay, get out of here, you stupid American. Get out, go. So I have funny. This. Yeah, I try not to. And then
I've been watching.
I should learn some phrases for whatever country I go visit, but I'm like, nah, I'm not going to do it.
That's funny. I've been watching Discovery has, I forget the exact name of it, but it's basically about like the border patrol station between Mexico and the U.S. and like all the cartel drug money and drugs they intercept and shit. It's kind of fucking intense show.
Have you seen? I don't know what country this was at, but there's a man with a toupee, like risen over his head, right? So there's some bag of coke, and then there's like a badly placed toupee on top of it. Have you seen that picture floating around?
No,
I just saw it a couple weeks ago.
He's tried to roll through immigration like that.
So he's rolling through immigration or customs somewhere through one country, and he's got like a badly mounted toupee over cocaine, and it couldn't have been a small package because it just looked awful. But I've seen videos of a young kid, maybe 18, maybe 19, coming from Mexico into the U.S. border. And they're like, hey, what's this liquid they have in this bottle? And it's a yellow liquid. And he's like, oh, it's just juice. It's just a tea. And they're like, there's no label. It's just a plain water bottle that you filled up with something else. What is it? He's like, it's just juice. It's just tea. That's the lie that he kept trying to tell to these people. And to prove it wasn't any drugs or anything, he took a swig of it. And this is liquid methamphetamine that he just took a big old swig out of. That boy died within hours of that interaction. And I'm just like, why? Just why? You guys are just too much.
Well, you heard it here first, gentlemen. Don't hide your cocaine under your toupee, and don't drink liquid meth. Oh my God! Thank you guys for hanging out. Again, welcome to Dennis. Hope you guys enjoy what's coming up from him in future episodes. Thanks, Alex. Like and subscribe. Check out the Facebook group and let us know what you like or what you want to hear more of. And we'll catch you on the next episode. Peace.